Good morning, everybody. This is Stephen Pugh of the Home Bible College. Yesterday I was out of communication with all internet, but for the sake of continuity, I want to bring before you the password that I had yesterday that I was unable to publish. Yesterday was August the 17th, and it was 2 Corinthians chapter 6. And in verse 1, Paul describes a potential difficulty in the lives of the Corinthian believers. And so he says, "We then, as workers together with him, beseech you also that you receive not the grace of God in vain." Now some people will be saying, well, there we are, you see, you can lose your salvation. No, he's not talking about salvation. He's talking about their mission. He says we have a mission to accomplish. And we are faced with all sorts of difficulties, immense difficulties, life-threatening difficulties. However, we are not to receive the grace of God in vain. And what Paul means by that is this. He says it's possible, you see, to be a Christian and to have the grace of God in your heart, but not to live it out. So we have salvation, but it isn't actualized in our lives. It isn't put into living practice in our lives. And so we live a Christian life of defeat, a Christian life in which the Holy Spirit is not empowering us, not leading us, and not blessing us. What a tragedy that is. And this is what Paul is encouraging them to do. He says, you've received the grace of God. Now then, he says, let that not be to a pointless life. Let that not be to an empty Christian life, but let that be to a life that is full of the Spirit and full of the power of God and full of serving God in the Holy Spirit. What a challenge. What a challenge. And Paul goes on, he says, don't give offense to anybody in anything, so that your ministry is not blamed, but in all things approving ourselves as ministers of God. And then he describes all the ways in which that's done, in much patience, in afflictions, in necessities and distresses, in stripes, in imprisonments, in tumults, in labour, and so on. And Paul is describing all the various facets on the diamond of ministry. But the most important thing we need to understand is this. It is possible as ministers of God to not be approved of God, to live a life of which he does not approve of what we do. Wow. That should cause us to think again, should cause us to re-examine our hearts before him, to know again whether we are in the faith, to be assured that we are in the faith, but that needs to be lived out in our lives. One of the most common, famous verses, which is often misunderstood, Paul says, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. And the idea is not that you might work up your salvation. We do not become saved by working. But once we have received grace, once we have received the blessing of God, once we have received his salvation, we're to make sure that that salvation is lived out. It's lived out in practical daily living. And so there we are, coming back to my password. We then, as workers together with him, beseech you that you receive not the grace of God in vain. God bless you. Look forward to speaking to you all again tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. Bye for now.